NASA has confirmed.
Fragments of the satellite have been found in the Middle East.
My God.
Planet has watched them grow to an unprecedented scale.
Tom, lovely to meet you this afternoon. Watching the film and getting to the end of it, I just found what a huge achievement, really. I mean, it's a film that really keeps you on the edge of your seat. I mean, you must be very proud.
I really am. I mean, I think that's the overwhelming feeling about it, and it's amazing to hear that from somebody, because maybe the misconception about this is that it's a cashing in on the first one, or it's a sort of a generic sort of sequel, and it really isn't. It's a really, what Monsters, the word almost in these films, the prefix for it stands for me is taking a small, very low budget and really going and trying to achieve something with huge ambition and creative invention and with real endeavour. And it's about just the complete commitment of young filmmakers and the cast to that process, really. So, yeah, that's the thing I'll always be proud about with the film.
And the interesting thing is, obviously, yes, it's called Monsters, but for me, watching the film, this isn't really a monster movie. It's a character-driven piece. Is that, what you felt from it as well? Because it is the people and the actors and the characters that are pushing this story forward, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that was what I identified with the first one. I loved everything about it. I loved, like any good idea, it was simple, and I just identified with it, and I thought that we could tell a different character story, and obviously they're allegorical films, and I think that I wanted to explore something completely different, but always through with my characters at the centre, and that's something I always try to do from my short film making, or even with Misfits. It's always about your characters, and so yeah, that part of the thing about them being character-driven movies is it's necessity as well. With the budgets we have to make these films, we can't sort of solve all the problems or gear the storytelling through set pieces and big action sequences or the creatures being up front and centre all the time. They have to they need to be present, but they also need to give your film scale and allow your characters to lead you through it just on a like, let's say, out of necessity to actually pull off the film's really.
I got your back out there, though, right? I'm always one that's got your back.
Yeah, boys!
Sighted Goliath herd.
We will fight those who oppose peace in this world, human or otherwise.
Story needs conflict to drive it. And what's clever again with this film is that you've got two types of conflict. You've got the monsters, but you've also, during the middle of a war, that must have been very interesting for you as a filmmaker to just sort of explore, really.
Yeah, I mean, incredible. I mean, just even being in the environment ourselves as filmmakers was really interesting. I think often some films and science fiction films, probably particularly, you're very distant from any sort of sense of anything relatable or an authentic world. Whereas here there's no green screen, there's no studios. It's all shot on one camera on my cinematographer's shoulder, and there's no cranes or steady cams or and it was I tried to create a very immersive environment. We shot in Jordan, and we were surrounded by the countries that the film is discussing, the wars that have taken place there in, I guess. Sometimes we were 25 miles from the Iraqi border, and so the guys were in their fatigues and they're in Humvees, and the Jordanian military opened up their doors to us and let us film on their military bases and in Black Hawk helicopters and things, and that created a real sense of authenticity for the film. And so I think and the actors were very method. They stayed really in character, particularly Johnny and Sam, through the whole process. And that was a real privilege to be able to create an immersive environment like that for the actors, and then have them repay that by being that committed to the filmmaking.
The interesting thing as well is obviously we're talking about that it's a sequel to the previous one. When we've moved on now 10 years, haven't we? Mm-hmm. And one particular scene that really highlights this for me, how the monsters have integrated into society, is the Dogfights scene. Yeah. And it's so sort of visceral, isn't it, really? I mean, how did you even go about creating that if you say you're not using green screen?
Yeah, well, actually, that was shot in Detroit, and we had a brilliant dog handlers, and the dog was a gorgeous dog, so we had to kind of put makeup on the dog to sort of make him look more sort of like mangy and like he could actually live in that space and be the sort of dog that was used to having dog fights. And he wrestled with the trainer, the dog handler, and he had like actually we had a little bit of green on him just because that helped with the interaction of rotoscoping around the creatures, the dog's mouth and stuff. And then we just replaced the man with the creature. I mean, when I saw what the guys were doing, the visual effects team were doing with that sequence, and I saw some early tests on that, I was absolutely staggered, really, because I kept saying all the way through, like my visual effects supervisor, amazing guy called Seb Barker, and he was 26 when he was doing this, really young. I mean, he was really stepping up and trying to do something on a higher level, and I sort of kept saying to him, look, when we see these creatures, even though they might be from the perspective of character all the time, they have to be at the level of a spectacle movie, of a Hollywood movie, and he kept saying like, yeah, I agree, but I think both of us deep down didn't know if we could pull that off. So when I started seeing the images, I was kind of blown away really about how they'd done it, and the visual effects in this film are done by like 5-7 people. Just gave me their life for a year, and some very, very late nights and long weekends, and so what they've achieved is incredible, really.
Killing monsters, baby. Woo! That's the fire. We need that out on the field.
5 hours ago, we lost comms with the unit. It is our job to find them, get them out. Do not let your emotions control you.
You don't get the feel. You do not deviate, you do not question.
And also the achievement from the actor's perspective as well. You touched upon incredible performances, which you get throughout, don't you? What I've noticed, did you study much into sort of PTSD? Because these guys are seriously damaged, aren't they?
Yeah, no, we did. I mean, in a way, that's Johnny Harris's character. I mean, for me, he's experiencing post-traumatic stress disorder in situ. Is a man who's done too many tours, and it's a psychological descent of that character through the film, rather than him coming home and experiencing it. And yeah, did a lot of research in that, and interviewed a lot of people, and met with real soldiers, and brought one lad who'd done 2 tours of Iraq, who I met in Detroit as part of the cast. Worked with Marines very closely, and I worked with an undercover British officer in between tours of Afghanistan as well. I was writing the film with Jay, and all of the sequences are obviously outside of the creature sequences come from actual accounts from soldiers that were recounted to me, or from documentary research, and obviously the exploring the psychological effects of PTSD was a big part of Johnny's character. And I think ultimately that's what it is. It's a film about the human condition of people at war, and the very real consequences of that. That was a big part of it.
You do the mission.
I got movement.
Fire!
I'm not scared of the monsters.
And for me as well, one of the other big scenes that kind of stands out to me is one of the end scenes with the little boy with the monster in the box. And it seems to me about acceptance, about living together and working together. That for me kind of summed what the film was about. Is that something that you wanted to bring across as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think me and Jay talked a lot about really wanting to sort of have open-ended questions for the film, and people to really find meaning from it in their own way, and in no way sort of make heavy political points or sort of be very overt or direct about what I think the film is full of meaning, and it's got a lot of layers to it if you sort of scratch the surface. And obviously it's exploring what it might be to be a monster through humanity rather than through the creatures themselves, and I think that's that's the same in the first film. So I'm pleased that people you recognise that, and then that came across, yeah.
And also working on Misfits for me is very much an ensemble piece. And even though this is seen from Michael Parks's POV. This also feels like an ensemble as well. Was that something that you wanted to create, the camaraderie and?
Yeah, very much so. That was a really, my access to kind of understanding the characters and how do I tell a story, because, some of the themes are really grand and really big and complicated. And I was thinking, I needed a sort of route into it as the director in a way, and I really understood, the relationships, the brotherhood with the friends, and growing up with these group of kids, and then taking those sort of bonds and putting them to really extreme situations, and so and the naivety of these kids as well. The cultural collision in this film is really a big part of it, and that the sense of it might be a game, and then how much of a stark reality they face when they get there. So building this sort of group of boys that you felt were sort of competing for who might become the lead character in a way was the idea, and I think that's a slightly unconventional construction that may work for some, might not work for other people, but for me that was also about the chaos of warfare. And a lot of the research I did was suddenly it bang, and it's one of these kids is gone and you don't expect it, and that was the idea with this as well. And so to sort of to create that chaos and that sort of uncertainty of how quickly that these lives could just fall, I felt you needed to sort of have characters that were competing for, and in an ensemble way, like you identify, yeah.